Hi guys. Hi guys, my name is Anjali and this is one of the most exciting videos I have ever interviewed someone for. And today we are going to have the speech pathologist who has been working with Arnav for all these years consistently, and she is with us to tell us so much more on speech for kids on autism spectrum. During this interview, she's going to touch on issues related to the speech delays in the kids with autism spectrum or other developmental disorders. We'll talk about the kids who are verbal as well as non-verbal and who are developing some speech, and that is all scripted. There is no functional language. So what do we do and what do we expect from such development? Then we will also talk about the patterns in speech delays in the kids with autism spectrum as they are developing. About some help for kids with speech delays and challenges along with vision challenges such as partial or complete blindness. And when we are talking about speech, we have to cover apraxia because that is an issue not only with the kids on spectrum but also with a lot of typical kids also. Oral motor exercises and the sign language. So let's start with our interview with Aisha, who is working as a speech therapist at Baltimore in America, and she has a vast experience of working with kids with autism spectrum and other disabilities and of different age groups. So she's so resourceful. We want to invite her to talk with us on this channel, and so let's welcome Aisha. Hi Aisha.
First, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me and giving me this opportunity. A simple rule that we follow: 1 year of age is one word. If the child is not saying anything at 1 year of age, that is like a concern. And before that, they should babble, ba 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 da 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 da, like some sounds are coming from the child. At 2 years of age, we accept 2 words. At 3 years of age, we accept 3 words. At 4, we expect sentences, simple sentences and complex sentences, asking questions. At 4 years of age, they should be able to have a conversation like a mini adult, basically, telling stories. So the sooner, the better. When the child is not speaking or not babbling or not responding to you at 6 months of age, not 8 months of age, I would say call infants and toddlers. Let's see if they qualify for services. And even if they don't qualify and you're still concerned, it might be not enough to be qualified for services. I would recommend giving a speech therapist. Just think about it. The mind is so malleable at the younger age, so that they'll be able to learn faster than later. Also, when you think about it, at 2, 3 years of age, they don't have school yet. So they have more time for therapy because in school, kids are learning not only social language, how to be social, they're learning academic concepts, which is two things layered on top of it. So we can take the age from 0 to 4 to focus on only social language. And for them to focus purely on learning how to communicate instead of learning how to academic concept and social language. So the sooner the better. I always think about it. If you, it's like giving your child a push. If you can give them a push, do it early. I know a lot of people say wait. A lot of parents usually, when I see them, they say, "Oh, the pediatric." The doctor said, let's wait, let's see. And it's hard, and I think a lot of parents face like they don't want to feel like something wrong with their child. And you can shift your thought about it and think about as tutoring. You're not, you're strengthening your child for them not to struggle later on. And even you might give them some therapy for a year, then realize they're doing fine, they don't need therapy anymore. It's better than coming later and trying to put them on waiting list. And I'm sure you know how long every waiting list is. Exactly. The younger also, they'll be easier to fit on the waiting list because you have flexibility. They're not going to school as the older children.
So, would you say, as a child like mine who was developing without any language, and then he started blabbering by the age of 12 months, then he had few words, and by 18 months he had few words. So, by the age of 2 years, he had several words, but these were all the numbers, the alphabets, the nursery rhymes, the colors, the shapes, which had no meaning, which was all scripted from the videos that he was watching, he was enjoying, and he would just consistently, repeatedly say those words. But saying functional language like mama, daddy, I want water, I'm hungry, these all, hi, bye, waving to you, nothing he was able to do. All he had was scripted language. So what do you have to say about that?
It is, because they're not using it functionally. They're using it for their own entertainment. They're able to produce it, but they're not calling anybody. They're not asking for help, asking what they want. They don't understand that the use of language is to communicate. They have the language, they have voices, but they're not directing it for a communication purpose. And that's where, that's what kids with autism struggle with, because they struggle with social communication. It's not just communication. A lot of them can talk, but they're not using it basically to socialize. They're using it for their own, entertainment, or like to, they're probably, he was happy when he was like, reciting the rhymes or using his voice. And another thing with kids with autism is, with research, we see them normally developing till 2 or 1.5. Then parents say they lost their words. I'm not sure if you faced that with Arnav, but a lot of parents say they were talking, but then at some point they lost their words. We see regression in language, or we see regression in motor development.
Yes.
Any pattern of development, any trigger for this, which happens suddenly after birth, or after some immunization, or some kind of factors which are influencing the child growth in the early stages? So is there anything that you think is influencing
pattern that we see with autism? And that's what a lot of parents think it's vaccines, because that's when the time where parents get vaccinated, where there's no reason for autism. There's no cause. We don't know what our cause is. I think, and as a parent, you want to justify and give it a reason. And parents like automatically blame themselves, like, oh, we vaccinated them, that's our mistake. But it's not like, to remove the guilt, because I do see kids who've never been vaccinated and they still have autism. Also, like, I know parents who decided to vaccinate their children after the age of 3, because they thought autism kind of have a regression between 1 and 2, so they decided to vaccinate later. So, I mean, it's a personal choice to make as a family. But in research, it doesn't show any correlation between vaccination and autism.
Do you have any experience of working with kids who have visual challenges like partial or complete blindness, and also are on spectrum and have verbal issues? So what do you think would be best to help these kids?
I know the Maryland Blind School, the School for the Blind, they do have like a classroom for kids with autism and who are blind. And probably they do have some of the kids who struggle with communication. So I think you have to be connected to a certain service, but probably it's like one school in the whole state. You know what I'm saying? So it's a limited service. I'm not like an expert in that sense, but with kids who have limited, for example, for nonverbal kids, usually in the clinic we trial a couple devices. We either try PECS, the picture exchange, or a device. And when I say a device, there's multiple apps that we try to see which one the kid that responds to. There's not like a clear formula of like exactly what the kid will respond to. Because for example, some try for a couple of days to see what is the kid's preference, what they like, and exactly, some kids prefer bigger pictures because they have vision problems, and some kids prefer can manage smaller pictures, and some kids, that depends on motor memories. Other kids can categorize. Yeah, their spelling, can they spell? So it depends. And usually in every school, there is in Maryland, there's like an AAC, alternative augmentative communication team that works with the school. So if the kid is nonverbal, the team comes in from the school district and evaluate the child to see what is the best communication manner for that child. And usually they should give a device or whatever they have agreed on to take home, and insurance should cover that.
Oh, yeah.
So because of my channel and the content that I have been sharing, a lot of parents from different part of the world have been contacting me who do not find direct resources in their area. So for them, could you just suggest any kind of the devices or apps that they could download to help their kids, and they could work with them, or the PECS, like these visuals that help for the verbal communication until they develop their language, or any other resources which would be easily available on internet?
Can have access to a speech therapist, that would be ideal, but if they don't, I would start with pictures. If they have access of a printer and like be able to cut pictures. Basically, the idea of pictures is just to understand basic communication. Like, I say something, I give you something, I get something in return. And that's a good place to start. This is the basic of, and any interaction is give and take. And that's what the kids are learning when we talk about PECS. So I always start with pictures of that. That's the small, the easiest way to start. Also, like, I can give you a list of apps you can download some of the free versions. You can try it and see if it works for your child. And probably in every app there is like some educational tutorials. For sure, it's best when speech therapist with the family. But I would recommend families to get free versions first before they pay all the money and then it doesn't work. I would also recommend parents to dedicate like an iPad. If it's an app, dedicate an iPad only for communication. It's not for to play games. You know what I'm saying? We only use it for one thing, and that's to use your voice.
So a magical question comes now, which every parent wants to ask. Have you seen the kids who are non-verbal developing language as they grow with the help of speech therapy?
Yes, we do. So actually, research shows like 30% of kids who use devices early on, usually they verbalize. There might not be a lot. Some kids can say single words with their voice, but they're not able to put like a sentence. So, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes like the communication device, the child can talk, but the communication device can push them to talk even more in a more complex way or communicate more ideas. So we do see that, because kids usually when they press something or when they give you something and they hear it multiple times and they see it, you saying it, usually that helps with them, like saying the words. But there's a lot of kids that never talk, and we don't know why. What's the reason behind that too?
Could you share some information on Apraxia, which is a speech hindrance?
Good, yes. It could. Apraxia is basically a miscommunication between the muscles and the brain. So you want to say something, but then it doesn't come out the right way. So there is some therapists that specialize in apraxia, and it is a medical diagnosis, and it could coexist with autism or with any other developmental diagnosis. Yeah, they can. We call it like because that would affect their articulation, how they pronounce things. So they might be very highly unintelligible. They do have it. They know how to put a sentence, but they're having difficulty pronouncing it right, and that could be due to apraxia. There is a lot of speech therapists do specialize in like articulation, helping the kids to pronounce things clearly. and like get training them the mouth where to be when they're trying to say a word. I know a lot of parents ask, do them motor, like a lot of extra, do the movement exercises help? There's no research behind that. We usually say if you want to practice saying the word ball, just try say the ball,
Yeah.
instead of doing like opening and closing mouth, doing other motor exercises.
How important or useful are oral motor exercises for developing speech?
For speech, we don't recommend. I mean, there's no research behind it. Some therapists might use it for other purposes if they're working on feeding or on chewing. That is something that I'm not an expert on.
I think we have touched on few of the important topics, but I'm really curious to know more on a sign language, because that is the backbone of speech therapy. That's what I understand. Maybe that's not true, but could you tell us more about sign language and autism?
Usually, kids with autism have fine motor difficulties. Um, and that problem, a lot of kids have problems like buttoning or like zipping, so they usually have problems with like signing, you know what I'm saying? Because with signs, you gotta use your fingers and I don't sign, but you have to use it really in touching certain, like you have to use a lot of fine motor. So a lot of kids don't pick up, a lot of kids with autism don't pick up sign language very fast. But I mean, it could work for some population. But and sign language we usually use pictures and communication devices more, because you can communicate with, a verbal person and a deaf person, a person who is deaf. So it opens you to more communication partners than sign language.
Very true.
Aisha, this has been one interesting interview with you, a speech therapist, and there have been a lot of resources that you have shared with us. So keep doing the good work, and thanks for coming on my channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anjali.